Hagane Ko, a level 254 Valkyrie and leader of the Holy Sword, declared her decision to remove Kaikeru from their party, stating that life is a game, and a difficult one at that, and that he could no longer keep up with their battles. The two stood in a park, a dark, ominous cloud looming over a devastated Tokyo cityscape in the background. Kaikeru, a level 75 trapmaster affiliated with the Holy Sword, listened to Ko's explanation. Kaikeru acknowledged Ko's words with a simple yeah. Ko reminisced about their shared past, recalling how they had climbed the ranks together upon Kaikeru's arrival in Tokyo. Kaikeru reflected on his initial expectations of Tokyo, contrasting his naive hopes with the reality of a city teeming with monsters. Ko's final words brought understanding to Kaikeru. I get it now. Hagane Ko, her expression resolute yet tinged with melancholy, informed Kaikeru that she had made a personal decision, and hadn't yet told the other two members of their party. Kaikeru, upon hearing the word expulsion, reflected on the leader's right to remove anyone, though it usually tarnishes the party's reputation. He apologized, stating he should have been the one to bring it up, while Ko acknowledged his feelings and noted his tendency to give up easily, a habit she'd observed since their childhood. Ko insisted Kaikeru take a portion of their shared assets as compensation for the trouble she'd caused, but he refused, bidding her farewell. As Kaikeru departed, Ko reflected on their recent dungeon expeditions, feeling they had become too dangerous, and that she couldn't bring herself to risk her friends' lives any longer. She recalled Kaikeru's past, noting that people had always pointed out his lack of talent, a difference that had persisted since his birth, and that he had wanted to stay with the party a little longer. News of Kajura Kaikeru's expulsion from the renowned adventuring party, Holy Sword, spread quickly. Observers noted the unusual length of time it took for his removal to be finalized, leading to speculation and gossip amongst those within the adventuring community. One individual remarked on the surprising nature of the event, given Kaikeru's past contributions, while another reflected on the consistent mystery surrounding Kaikeru's eventual departure from Holy Sword. Kaikeru himself, walking through the city streets, acknowledged the situation, and internally reflected on his own actions, recognizing that his departure was inevitable. He felt no need for anyone to explain the reasons to him, and noted the surprising lack of conflict or interaction between himself and his former teammates, despite their past close working relationship. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, a young woman expressed her surprise and apology regarding the events surrounding Kaikeru's expulsion. The narrative then shifts to a broader perspective, revealing that today marks the 40th anniversary of the appearance of the first skyholes in Tokyo. Hagane Ko, aboard a train, was the only one who could see a strange, dark entity descending from the sky. A massive, tentacled being that pierced the earth with a dark, energy-like spear, causing widespread destruction and panic as people screamed and fled. Ko, witnessing the catastrophic event, felt a surge of fear and helplessness. The entity vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving Ko in shock and confusion. Ko, reflecting on the incident, wondered about the nature of the entity and its sudden disappearance. A mysterious woman, her expression unreadable, addressed Hagane Ko. "Shall we begin?" she asked, her words laced with an unsettling calm as she pulled a shadowy figure towards her. The shadowy figure, seemingly lifeless, was dragged across the desolate landscape. Ko, overcome with a mix of horror and disbelief, watched the scene unfold before him, his face contorted in anguish. The woman's actions left Ko speechless. He could only stare, his mind reeling from the implications of what he had just witnessed. Suddenly, Ko felt a sharp pain, a searing sensation that left him gasping for breath. "Ugh," he groaned, clutching his chest. The pain intensified, accompanied by a strange, almost euphoric feeling. Hagane Ko found himself in a perilous situation, a trap sprung beneath his feet, marked by an arrow symbol. He recognized the danger instantly. There was no time to hesitate. The ground gave way, sending Ko plummeting into the chasm below. Kajura Kaikeru, witnessing the collapse, shouted a warning and rushed to Ko's aid. Ko landed hard, but Kaikeru's timely intervention prevented further injury. Ko, shaken but alive, examined the strange symbol embedded in the ground, a trap designed to manipulate movement. Later, safe from immediate danger, Kaikeru expressed his concern and gratitude for Ko's rescue effort. He noted that nobody had witnessed the incident, highlighting the clandestine nature of the attack. Kaikeru explained that if something like this happened near the origin gate, the entire city would be thrown into chaos. He revealed that the attack was not accidental, but a deliberate act. Observing the scene, Kaikeru explained that trapmasters are weak in direct combat, relying solely on their traps to gain experience points. Ko, having fallen into a trap, recognized the arrow symbol indicating its activation, and narrowly avoided the attack, demonstrating his improved ability to predict enemy movements. Despite his success, Ko felt his skills were still lacking, particularly in close-range combat. However, he realized he could use his understanding of traps to force enemies into them, gaining a new tactical advantage. This newfound skill filled him with determination to grow even stronger. Amidst a chaotic battlefield strewn with fallen soldiers, a young woman, Ojima, desperately urged her companions to retreat. She pleaded with them to escape the overwhelming number of enemies closing in. But the sheer scale of the invasion left her feeling helpless and hopeless. Elsewhere, a young man, alone in a forest, felt a surge of power as he leveled up. He reflected on his past reliance on others and resolved to become stronger, relying only on himself. He had leveled up on his own since the appearance of the gates. Ojima, desperate and overwhelmed, fought valiantly, but the enemy was relentless. The clash of steel echoed around her. She could hear the sounds of battle intensifying, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She knew she was in dire straits. The enemies were far stronger than any she had faced before. And she had no idea how many more were coming. Her companions were clearly in trouble, and she knew she had to act quickly. Meanwhile, the unnamed young man, determined and self-reliant, observed the chaos from a distance. Reinforcements were on their way, but he knew he couldn't wait for them. He decided to set a trap, hoping to buy some time for his allies. He knew that rejoining Ojima and the others would be difficult, given the overwhelming odds. But he had to try. He had no idea how powerful the monsters were, but he was prepared to face them. Ojima, wounded and retreating, found herself cornered. A young man, observing from a distance, saw her plight and decided to intervene, offering his assistance. He noted her superior equipment and speed, and the civilians she was protecting. Ojima, wary but desperate, accepted his help. The young man, introducing himself as Kajura Kaikeru, explained he was not part of a rescue force, merely leveling nearby. Reize Agino, a paladin, introduced herself. Kaikeru, identifying himself as a trapmaster, proposed a strategy: he would handle the attacks while she protected the civilians. Kaikeru began setting traps, but realized that luring the monsters one by one wouldn't be enough. He needed a new area of effect technique. A surge of determination washed over him. He felt he could do it, and with a confident shout of trap fusion, he unleashed a powerful new trap. The young man unleashed a wave of magically imbued blades, the arrow symbol plus slash technique, cutting down multiple attackers in a single, sweeping motion. The resulting impact creating a wide swath of destruction across the battlefield. Ojima, witnessing the display, felt a surge of relief and gratitude. The young man's trap technique ensnared numerous enemies, leaving them incapacitated. Ojima, initially shocked by the display, questioned if he was a wizard. He corrected her, identifying himself as a trapmaster. The young man's unexpected success left him slightly bewildered, but he quickly focused on the next threat. Ojima and the soldiers expressed their gratitude for his timely intervention, acknowledging his skill. The young man, his face set with grim determination, launched himself forward, shouting "Go!" as he activated a new trap technique, indicated by the glowing arrow symbol X2 appearing on the ground. He engaged the powerful ogre in close-quarters combat, the ogre roaring in rage as the young man's attack connected, sending the massive creature reeling. Despite the ogre's immense strength, the young man skillfully evaded its attacks, his daggers proving surprisingly effective in chipping away at the beast's defenses. He muttered to himself, "These daggers aren't much, but I'm sure they'll hurt either way. I just have to keep whittling it down." Meanwhile, Ojima, observing from a distance, felt a surge of worry. She expressed her concern, stating, "I need to help him. Another person, presumably part of her group, responded, "I'm going back." A third voice added, "Help should be coming here. Show them the way." The ogre, enraged by the persistent attacks, unleashed a devastating blow that the young man was unable to dodge. He thought, "I can't dodge." The young man, anticipating the ogre's attack, had strategically prepared a trap. As the ogre lunged, the young man deftly discarded his weapon, activating the trap with the command, arrow symbol plus fire. Trap set. The ogre was caught in a fiery explosion. The unnamed young man unleashed a torrent of fire, the flames swirling into a complex trap, successfully ensnaring the ogre within its fiery embrace. Ojima watched, her worry easing slightly as she observed the effectiveness of the young man's technique. Ryuzel, from the Kanazawa branch of Japan's largest adventurer deer brand, met with Ojima. Ojima, surprised to see him, recalled hearing his name before and expressed gratitude for his help the previous day. Ryuzel explained that he'd sent his subordinates to a dangerous location because he'd only recently received his position through family connections and had been accused of nepotism. He then proposed a business proposition to Ojima. Ryuzel asked Ojima to sign a sponsorship contract with him. Ojima, initially hesitant, questioned his motives. But Ryuzel clarified that he wasn't seeking public relations, he simply wanted to support her. He believed that supporting her would be a worthwhile investment, given her potential to become the strongest adventurer. Ojima reflected on Ryuzel's proposal, questioning her own weakness and the blindness of those around her. Ryuzel cautioned her against speaking ill of others, understanding Ojusuma's insecurities. Ojima admitted her immaturity despite her newfound power, acknowledging Ryuzel's past attempts to support her. Ryuzel reassured Ojima, emphasizing that her expulsion wasn't a crime and that she would grow stronger, both mentally and physically. Ojima, accepting Ryuzel's offer, agreed to the contract. Ojima inquired about the party Ryuzel belonged to. Ojima reflected on her recent interactions with Kaikeru-kun, concluding that if they simply contacted him, he would likely respond normally. Ryuzel, observing Ojusuma's pensive state, offered words of comfort, assuring her that Kaikeru-kun would understand. Ojima, however, expressed her reluctance to seek forgiveness, stating that she didn't want to. Ryuzel then suggested an alternative approach, proposing that Ojima should have proposed to Kaikeru-kun before dismissing him, suggesting that things might have gone better. Ojima considered this, acknowledging that her previous approach was perhaps too abrupt, and reflecting on the awkwardness of the situation. The two women continued their conversation, discussing the unexpected turn of events and the missed opportunity for a confession. Ojima, her expression thoughtful, revealed her plans to retire after conquering the Origin Gate and then move to a country that allows polygamy, intending to take Kaikeru-kun with her. Ryuzel, surprised, questioned Ojusuma's sudden announcement. Meanwhile, Kaikeru-kun arrived at a dungeon, confirming its location. He learned from Toga that Lady Akino had transferred the dungeon's rights to him. Despite Toga's offer to prepare a low-rank dungeon for Kaikeru-kun, he declined, stating he knew what he had to do. Toga, unable to assist directly due to observation duties, wished Kaikeru-kun luck as he ventured into the dungeon. Kaikeru-kun, focused on his objective, muttered to himself, needing to get closer to crush the goblin general's armor in one hit. He swiftly moved, his blade ablur as he launched a series of attacks. The goblin general countered, but Kaikeru-kun's precise movements allowed him to evade and set a trap. Employing his arrow symbol X4 technique, he unleashed a devastating barrage of attacks. The combined force of the strikes cleaved the goblin general in two, ending the fight. After the battle, Kaikeru-kun noticed a strange drop, recognizing it as a fire attribute enhancer he remembered seeing before. He decided to give it to Ryuzel. Kaikeru-kun and Ryuzel emerged from the dungeon, greeted by a maid and another young woman. The maid welcomed them back, while the other young woman expressed her relief and joy at their safe return, exclaiming, "You came out." Kaikeru-kun, having emerged from the dungeon, examined a small, familiar-looking item. He mused that it was a fire element attack enhancement, perhaps he would give it to Ryuzel. He reflected on his slow but steady progress in leveling up, noting that having a party would allow for easier advancement in higher ranking areas. Ryuzel greeted Kaikerukuin enthusiastically, expressing her relief at his safe return. A young woman and a maid also shared in their joy. Ryuzel admired Kaikerukuin's new cloak, commenting on its rarity and how well it suited him. Kaikerukuin explained that he had obtained it in a private dungeon, a fact that surprised Ryuzel. A young woman, Tsukage Tsukasa, introduced herself, revealing that she was a 14-year-old adventurer. She expressed interest in exchanging information with Kaikerukuin, noting his strong appearance. Kaikerukuin, having returned from a dungeon expedition, reflected on the dangers of his chosen path. He mused about the places he wanted to explore, acknowledging their inherent risks. He considered the challenges ahead, realizing that his adventurous spirit might lead him to places his classmates wouldn't dare to venture. Meanwhile, a young woman, identifying herself as a rank B assassin, approached Kaikerukuin, proposing a collaboration, highlighting her exceptional skills and suggesting that she could handle solo missions. Kaikerukuin, contemplating the loneliness of his solitary lifestyle, found himself intrigued by the assassin's offer. Ryuzel greeted Kaikerukuin enthusiastically upon his return, her joy palpable. The maid also welcomed Kaikerukuin and Ryuzel, relieved at his safe return. Kaikerukuin, thoughtful after his dungeon run, presented Ryuzel with a ring, explaining that it was a memento from their shared experience. Ryuzel, joyful and curious, questioned his reasoning. Kaikerukuin clarified that he wanted to share this special first step with her, emphasizing the ring's significance as a symbol of their collaboration. Ryuzel, touched by his gesture, accepted the ring, placing it on her left ring finger. Kaikerukuin, slightly flustered, apologized for any unintended implications. Later, Kaikerukuin received a call from a young woman, Kajura, who enthusiastically proposed a temporary party collaboration for the following day. Initially hesitant about teaming up with random people, Kaikerukuin considered the offer, noting that Kajura's uncle was assembling a team. Kajura, persistent and charming, convinced Kaikerukuin to join her team, emphasizing the leader's approachability and her own eagerness to work with him. He agreed, and she expressed her excitement. Kaikerukuin, Ryuzel, and Kajura discussed the upcoming dungeon raid. Kajura reassured Kaikerukuin that even if he were a trapmaster, his rank wouldn't matter much in their group. Kajura emphasized that honesty is key when trusting someone in a dungeon, and expressed confidence in Kaikerukuin's trustworthiness. The group decided to proceed with the raid. As they set off, Kaikerukuin experienced a strange feeling, a sudden, inexplicable sensation. He noticed something amiss, a subtle shift in the atmosphere, as if they were being watched. They were indeed being followed by a group of adventurers, their presence now undeniable. Kaikerukuin, Ryuzel, and their temporary party pressed onward through the forest, nearing their objective. The party leader, a confident young woman, announced that the boss room should be close by. A moment of quiet contemplation followed, punctuated only by a low hum from one of the party members. Then, a sudden, violent clash erupted. One of the party members was attacked, the assailant exclaiming, "What are you?" The attacker, a seemingly scrawny individual, was quickly subdued by the party's strength, despite their protestations that they were merely in the wrong place at the wrong time. However, a seasoned member of the party, noticing something amiss, identified the attacker's high-rank gear, cleverly disguised to appear low-rank. The truth was revealed: the entire party was comprised of bandits, using their disguised gear to lure in unsuspecting high-rank adventurers. Kaikerukuin stood, his expression a mixture of shock and disbelief, as he witnessed the aftermath of the ambush. Ryuzel, nearby, wept, her face streaked with tears. She had just thought she might finally escape loneliness, and yet. Kaikerukuin's gaze hardened. He would not run. The path he had chosen did not allow for such weakness. He would not allow himself to be defeated by such trash. He declared that he had no intention of running. Kaikerukuin was ambushed. One assailant called him ignorable trash. Another urged his companion to kill Kaikerukuin. Kaikerukuin, despite being outnumbered, activated a trap, using an arrow sigil. The sigil's effect sent one attacker flying. While Kaikerukuin engaged the remaining opponent in a fierce duel, his movements swift and precise. Despite his skill, Kaikerukuan was clearly outmatched. His opponent noted his slow reaction time and low rank, before landing a blow that sent Kaikerukuan reeling. Kaikerukuan, already injured, braced himself against a renewed onslaught. His opponents, enraged by his earlier trap, pressed their attack with renewed ferocity, their blows landing with heavy impacts. Kaikerukuan, despite his injuries, fought back with grim determination, his movements precise and deadly. One of his attackers boasted of his strength, gained from overcoming those who mocked him. But Kaikerukuan countered, stating that true strength lies elsewhere, not in brute force alone. The battle raged on, Kaikerukuan skillfully dodging and countering, his resolve unwavering. Kaikerukuan, exhausted but victorious, received apologies from the young woman, Kajura, for involving her in the recent conflict. He reassured her, stating that he was glad she had joined him, and that they should call it a day, having reduced their attackers from 5 to 2. Kajura agreed, expressing her desire not to end the day on such a note. Kaikerukuan then invited Kajura to continue exploring the dungeon with him, and she readily accepted, eager to continue their adventure. Meanwhile, the maid, having observed the events from a distance, expressed relief that Kajura remained unharmed. Kajura, preparing to depart, mentioned that she would file her report after this. Kaikerukuan revealed that he had kept a hidden skill in reserve, just in case. A fact that impressed Kajura, who commented on its amazing nature. Kaikerukuan admitted that revealing the skill was a slip-up, and Kajura playfully teased him about it. Kaikerukuan and Kajura stood amidst a desolate landscape, the aftermath of a recent battle visible around them. Kajura noted the absence of any obvious threat, while Kaikerukuan, ever vigilant, pointed out the near-invisible presence of a stealth wolf. The wolf, a creature of exceptional stealth, was revealed to be a pack leader, signaling to others with a howl. Kaikerukuan deduced that the pack's strategy was to remain hidden while their underlings hunted, and Kajura agreed that their only option was to find and eliminate the stealth wolf. Kajura, with remarkable speed and precision, set a trap using arrow sigils and flame, aiming to capture the entire pack. As the trap sprung, Kaikerukuan and Kajura found themselves facing a large pack of wolves, realizing the stealth wolf's ability to endlessly summon reinforcements. Kaikerukuan, facing a large wolf pack, leaped into action. He moved with speed and precision, utilizing the environment to his advantage. Meanwhile, Kajura, having already set a trap, braced herself for the oncoming assault. She muttered to herself, "Got it," as she prepared to buy Kaikerukuan time. Kajura unleashed a flurry of attacks, her movements a blur of motion. She pushed herself to the limit, her determination unwavering. The words "push yourself to the limit" echoed in her mind as she fought with fierce intensity. The force of her attack created a massive shockwave, momentarily scattering the wolves. She noted, "These many installments are enough," as she assessed the situation. Amidst the chaos, Kaikerukuan observed the situation, noting that most of the pack had been driven off. He thought, "I can focus on tracking the howl," as he prepared for the next phase of his plan. Kajura, exhausted but resolute, continued to fight, narrowly avoiding a wolf's attack. She muttered, "Crap dash," as she braced for another onslaught. Kaikerukuan, his expression serious, looked at Kajura, who stood beside him, exhausted but clearly exhilarated. He posed a question, the words hanging heavy in the air between them, "Will you officially team up with me?" A young woman, her expression a mixture of determination and apprehension, approached a young man. She asked him if he would officially team up with her, a question that clearly held significant weight for her. He had never considered a party other than Holy Sword. He considered her request, needing some time to think. She thanked him for even considering her offer. They discussed their next steps, acknowledging the need for stealth and planning. The young woman, aware of the impending fight, expressed her reliance on him. He reassured her, revealing that he had anticipated this and already laid the groundwork for their approach. A large, wolf-like creature appeared in the distance. Kaikerukuan and the young woman fought a monstrous creature together. Kaikerukuan, wielding his sword, moved with precision, while the young woman, incredibly fast, supported him from the air, her movements a blur. The young woman's speed was such that Kaikerukuan could barely see her, but she assured him that she would be able to support him. The young woman's attack was swift and decisive, leaving the creature vulnerable. Together, they managed to defeat the creature, successfully clearing a high-level gate, a feat the young woman had never accomplished before. They celebrated their victory, with the young woman expressing her gratitude to Kaikerukuan. Observing the aftermath, Kaikerukuan realized that the gate's clearing had opened a path to a new area. Kaikerukuan and the young woman, having returned from their successful gate boss battle, were greeted by Kajura and others at a cafe. The young woman, still in her maid uniform, explained that she works as a maid when not observing, while Kaikerukuan expressed relief at seeing Kajura safe and sound. The conversation turned to the young woman's surprise at Kaikerukuan's casual attire, which he explained was a hobby, leading to a discussion about forming a party. The young woman, initially hesitant, revealed her ultimate goal is to reunite with her original party. Kaikerukuan, understanding her reservations, explained that he doesn't plan on forming an official party, but that working together has many benefits, particularly for team combat. The young woman, intrigued by the prospect of improved coordination and the advantages of teamwork, considered the proposal. Kaikerukuan's intention to utilize her kindness was transparent to her. Yet she didn't mind, recognizing the practical advantages of their temporary alliance. She acknowledged that forming a party with him, even temporarily, was the only way to team up effectively. Kaikerukuan, his expression relieved, proposed a temporary alliance to the young woman, stating his desire to team up with her. The young woman, practical and agreeable, readily accepted, though she questioned the nature of his selfishness. Kaikerukuan then extended the invitation to Ryuzel, who initially seemed hesitant but ultimately agreed. With Ryuzel's agreement, the group celebrated their newfound alliance, their excitement palpable. Later, Kaikerukuan sat alone, lost in thought, musing on the name Vestige and his motivations. He reflected on his past, acknowledging that while chasing it was embarrassing, it was his biggest current motivation. The young woman and Ryuzel expressed their approval of the name Vestige. Kaikerukuan's deception was successful. Tsukage was unable to discern his true gender. The young woman and her companion reacted with surprise and amusement, observing the keep-out tape cordoning off a restricted area. Kaikerukuan's actions were noted, as he had formed a party. Natsume-senpai received a report, expressing gratitude for the information provided. She reflected on Kaikerukuan's interesting childhood friend, and learned that he had not returned home. The young woman, having found him through her connections, expressed her delight at his irresistibly cute nature, while another character commented on Kaikerukuan's adventurous nature. The scene shifted to a desolate landscape, where the young woman expressed concern about Kaikerukuan's preparedness for the harsh environment. A monstrous creature attacked, its power described as the hand of the death god. The young woman and her companion were forced to defend themselves. Kaikerukuan, dressed in a tuxedo, complimented the young woman on her dress, finding her cute. She expressed excitement, mentioning it was her first time doing something like this. Kaikerukuan admitted to having always had trouble with neckties, while the young woman noted his restlessness. A maid then appeared, confirming their readiness before they proceeded to the entrance. The trio, Kaikerukuan flanked by the two young women, stepped out into the night. Kaikerukuan declared that they were heading to Vestige's first battle. Chapter 7 begins with an explanation of raid battles, where multiple parties team up to challenge large dungeons. The narrator explains that this particular event is unusually large, thanks to the leading guild's efforts, and shows a celebratory scene where adventurers gather. Kiryu and Jessica, the raid organizer, expresses her joy at the turnout, noting the high number of participants, while other adventurers discuss the event's unusual scale and the high pay offered. They speculate about the reasons behind the increased funding and the involvement of a powerful sponsor, and debate the fairness of the situation, given the significant advantages it provides to the participating parties. One adventurer notes that the high-ranking clear of a dungeon is how Jessica's group earned their achievement. Jessica then announces that a selection test for raid members will be held tomorrow. She reveals that she asked Ryuzel to include Vestige in the upcoming raid. Kiryu and Jessica announced the selection process for the upcoming raid, stating that only 20 participants would be chosen through a series of duels. The news caused a stir among the potential recruits. One young woman expressed concern about being sent home, while Kaikeru-kun, preoccupied with his own thoughts, reflected on his expulsion from Holy Sword and the potential repercussions of his past actions. He worried that his past might cause trouble, and wondered what he should do. Meanwhile, two young women, one of whom was a student, engaged in a tense conversation. The student, anxious about the upcoming duel, expressed her fear of not being able to join the raid. And her anxiety manifested in a clumsy accident during which she knocked over a tray of food. Another girl, witnessing the mishap, offered words of comfort and reassurance. The anxious student confessed her inexperience in duels and her desire to participate in the raid, revealing herself to be a wizard. Kaikeru-kun, observing the scene, offered words of encouragement, pointing out that many rear guards are also poor duelists. He reassured her that the organizers prioritize suitable members and that even those who lose their duels might still be selected, as long as they demonstrate their abilities. His words calmed her down considerably. A C-rank trapmaster, brimming with confidence, declared his intention to win the upcoming raid selection test. While a young woman, expressing her nervousness, sought reassurance from her friend, Akino. Akino, in turn, offered words of encouragement, emphasizing the importance of their shared participation. And the two friends expressed their determination to do their best. Meanwhile, Kaikeru-kun, reflecting on his past expulsion from Holy Sword, felt a surge of anxiety about his chances in the raid. But he resolved to participate nonetheless. The selection test began. One participant, a young woman in a red uniform, prepared to face her opponent. Observing that her opponent was the same girl from the previous day, she encouraged her opponent, wishing her the best. The young woman in red fired a powerful energy blast from her weapon, which appeared to lack an arrow. But her opponent, a girl in white armor, effortlessly blocked the attack, surprising onlookers with her strength. The girl in white armor, despite the impressive display of power, declared her intention to demonstrate the true strength of her tank-like defenses, and prepared for a more serious engagement. The young woman in red, realizing the need to get past the opponent's shield, prepared for a closer range attack. Kajura and Kaikeru-kun, having demonstrated sufficient skill, passed the selection test. The examiner noted that the test could have become far more difficult. The young woman, also successful, expressed her amazement at having passed so easily. Kaikeru-kun, relieved, prepared to leave. He thanked the young woman for her earlier advice, noting her strength. She, in turn, expressed gratitude for his help, stating that she hadn't been nervous thanks to his guidance. Later, Kaikeru-kun received a gift from the young woman, who introduced herself as Yuzui Turu. He was surprised to find numerous medallions featuring her likeness inside her bag. Upon seeing one particular medallion, Kaikeru-kun exclaimed Yuko, causing Turu to blush and explain that Yuko was her special nickname, only used by close friends. Kaikeru-kun, realizing his mistake, apologized, explaining that he had seen the nickname in a fan report. Turu, though embarrassed, accepted his apology. Yuzui Turu, her face flushed, giggled, explaining that Kaikeru-kun's nickname for her was inappropriate. Kaikeru-kun, looking slightly embarrassed, registered his surprise at her being a fan of Yuko. The conversation shifted to the selection test results and the group's media exposure, with Kaikeru-kun expressing concern about potential criticism. Kajura and Yuzui Turu reassured him, emphasizing the positive aspects of their public image and the overall success of the test. The situation ended on a positive note. Two schoolgirls were talking. One of them said that she couldn't call the other Ashitari-san because it was Yuko's nickname. The other girl explained that it was a nickname she gave herself, and it had become a habit. Suddenly, Kaikeru appeared, causing one of the girls to exclaim in surprise. The other girl apologized for the wait. One of the girls, addressing Kaikeru, mentioned that she had heard that Yuko was a nickname. Kaikeru, somewhat embarrassed, explained that it was only a nickname given to him by a childhood friend, and that it was not mentioned in any interviews. He thought it was just a rumor. Kaikeru, grappling with the shock of an expulsion rumor, found himself unexpectedly confronted by two schoolgirls. One of them, with a knowing look, revealed his nickname and his connection to Holy Sword, leaving him stunned. The girl's companion attempted to clarify the situation, expressing concern for Kaikeru's predicament. Kaikeru, wanting to avoid further trouble, pleaded with them to keep quiet about his involvement with Holy Sword. The girls, understanding his apprehension, agreed to maintain his secret, though one expressed curiosity about his connection to Ashitari-san. Later, Kaikeru found himself the subject of gossip among a group of students, who discussed his reputation and the unusual nature of his fans. One of the girls, impressed by Kaikeru's composure and the secrecy surrounding him, commented on his strength. Two young women, dressed in traditional Japanese attire, discussed the dangers of high-ranking areas. One commented on the similarity in their age, while the other expressed surprise. One of the women mentioned the need for a dungeon drop, specifically the blue elixir. The other girl noted the elixir's rarity and high market value, 1 billion yen. The conversation shifted to the reason for needing the elixir. Someone close to one of the girls was gravely ill. It was revealed that the sick person was the mother of one of the girls, who was unable to walk anymore. Modern medicine was ineffective. Kaikeru, the young man who had previously avoided trouble, explained that he was saving money for the elixir, and thanked the girls for their help in the dungeon raid. The girls expressed their gratitude and determination to do their best. The scene shifted to a large group of adventurers preparing for a raid, signaling the start of the battle. Kaikeru, Girl 1, and Girl 2, along with other adventurers, prepared for a raid, their objective being the acquisition of the blue elixir. Girl 1 explained her mother's critical condition, emphasizing the elixir's necessity, while Kaikeru expressed his determination to obtain it, thanking the girls for their assistance. The group's strategy involved a carefully planned trap to weaken the enemy forces before the final confrontation. The plan was to send a vanguard team to draw out the enemy, allowing the main force to strike decisively. Girl 2 expressed her eagerness to participate, confident in their success. Kaikeru, despite being part of the vanguard, was also tasked with setting up the trap. He was assured by his companions that he was the best for the job. The group's leader explained the plan's details, emphasizing the importance of the vanguard's role in gathering information and weakening the enemy before the main party's arrival. He stressed the need for caution and strategic resource management. Kaikeru, despite his strength, was assigned to the vanguard, a decision he accepted. He was aware of the risks involved, but his resolve remained unshaken. The leader expressed concern about the unusual nature of the monsters encountered, noting the lack of a common theme among them, which made predicting the final boss difficult. Kaikeru, considering the raid strategy, reasoned that prioritizing the safety of the Impiator was logical. He felt he might be overlooking something crucial, however, as he pondered the plan's details. The team, having located the boss's room, proceeded cautiously. Girl 2 warned them to be careful, noting the unsettling nature of the place, while Girl 1 expressed her fear. Suddenly, a monstrous creature emerged, surprising the team. The creature attacked, forcing Kaikeru to react swiftly. A young man, his face etched with frustration, muttered to himself, "Why couldn't I think of it?" He was surrounded by a terrifying scene. Monstrous creatures, identified as Whispering Maris and Murder Mebius, were wreaking havoc. One of the monsters was described as having incredible attack power. The scene shifted to show a large group of adventurers, their faces grim, retreating before the onslaught of the monsters. Their retreat was chaotic, marked by dust and disarray. One of the adventurers, a young woman with long hair, looked on in fear and desperation. A sudden, sharp cry pierced the air as one of the adventurers fell, killed instantly. Panic spread among the remaining adventurers. Another adventurer, a man with glasses, watched in horror as the monsters blocked their escape route. The young man from the first panel shouted, "Raise! Get back!" As he moved to protect a blonde-haired woman. The monsters continued their relentless attack. The man with glasses identified one of the creatures as a death mantis. The situation grew dire as the man with glasses explained that without a proper strategy, the monsters would attack randomly. He noted their lack of sufficient tanks to defend everyone. One tank was already down, adding to the growing sense of despair. A plan was devised. One tank would hold the line while others formed a defensive formation behind them. The young man, his face etched with concern, activated a protective barrier, declaring, "I'll take care of one side." He braced himself, ready to face the oncoming threat. Meanwhile, Reze, visibly shaken, questioned the young man, "Will you come anyways?" The young man's resolve hardened as he prepared for battle. Reze, despite her fear, acknowledged the young man's plan, stating, "I just have to follow your lead, right?" Her expression showed a mix of determination and trepidation. Another man, his glasses reflecting the intensity of the moment, watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. A young woman, her face streaked with tears, pleaded, "Don't go." The young woman, despite her fear, showed a flash of defiance, declaring, "There are times when a lady must act." She steeled her resolve, preparing to fight alongside the others. The young man charged into the fray, shouting, "Come at me!" His attack was swift and decisive. A powerful enemy attacked, and the young man fought bravely against it. Reze and the man with glasses provided support from a distance, shouting encouragement and instructions. The man with glasses focused on healing the young man, urging him to keep fighting. While the young man continued to struggle against the overwhelming power of his opponent, his determination unwavering despite his exhaustion. Reze watched, fear etched on her face, as the battle raged on. She realized the current strategy was failing, and the young man wouldn't last much longer. The unnamed young man, exhausted but resolute, asked Reze, "When I do, can you get close and fire a spell from inside its shell?" Reze, fearful but supportive, responded, while the man with glasses observed and provided tactical support from inside. "You want her to get close with stealth. But she'll be in danger if she messes up." The young woman with dark hair, injured but determined, stated, "I trust Kajura-san. He's a good person." The word stealth appeared on the page. Meanwhile, the unnamed young man and the unnamed young woman with dark hair prepared for their next move, with the man with glasses offering support, "I'll help you out too." The unnamed young man engaged the enemy in a fierce battle, shouting, "Don't let go," as he fought desperately. The enemy countered with a powerful attack, the unnamed young man barely managing to avoid a fatal blow, pleading, "Just don't die on me." The young woman with dark hair, her shield shattered, cried out in pain as a powerful blow sent her flying. The unnamed young man, witnessing the scene, shouted Reze, as he braced himself for another attack. He pushed himself to his limits, his body screaming in protest, but his resolve remained unshaken. Meanwhile, the young woman with dark hair, despite her injuries, found the strength to rise again, her determination fueled by a fierce protectiveness. With a desperate cry of one each on, she launched herself into the fray, her movements a blur of motion. The unnamed man with glasses, observing the situation, provided tactical support and healing, ensuring the young woman's survival. With a guttural cry of "Wah-hh-hh," the young woman with dark hair was violently thrown backwards by a powerful magical blast. The force of the impact sending her sprawling across the ground as a dark cloud of magical energy engulfed her. A powerful attack hurtled toward a group of heroes, but a young woman deflected it with a skillful maneuver. This, she declared, was their chance to strike back. The young woman, with limited mana remaining, unleashed a desperate attack, pleading for it to be enough. The force of her attack was overwhelming, causing the enemy's arms to fall off, leaving the enemy vulnerable. The heroes shouted encouragement to each other, ready to finish the fight. The battle concluded with the enemy defeated. Reze, one of the heroes, collapsed, exhausted but relieved. A young woman with glasses rushed to his side, expressing her gratitude. The monstrous entity shuddered, its form dissolving into a chaotic spray of dark energy. As the young woman with dark hair and Reze stood amidst the aftermath, exhausted but victorious. "Did we defeat it?" one of them questioned, uncertainty lingering in the air. Their relief was short-lived. From the dissipating darkness, smaller, monstrous creatures emerged, feeding on the remains of their defeated foe. "They're eating it," the young woman exclaimed, horror dawning on her face. "It's their parent," another character observed, the implications heavy with dread. The smaller creatures rapidly grew, transforming into larger, more formidable versions of themselves. "They're turning into adults," someone whispered, fear palpable. The man with glasses shouted, "We can defeat them before they grow up." He urged the others, "Don't falter." Despite their exhaustion, the group rallied, charging towards the newly matured creatures.
"Everyone, charge," a voice commanded, spurring them onward. One of the fighters noted, "If we can just land one more blow." But even with renewed determination, the battle was far from over. Another fighter admitted, "Yeah, I can't make a single trap more."
The young woman with dark hair declared, "Then take this," preparing for a final, desperate attack. The young man with fiery hair, strained but resolute, braced himself, his sword held high. He unleashed a final, desperate attack against the monstrous foe, his movements a blur of motion. The clash of steel echoed through the battlefield as the young man fought with the last of his strength. Elsewhere, a young man, breathless and exhausted, looked around in confusion, asking, "Where's the rest of them?" A nearby comrade pointed towards a shimmering portal, stating, "It's the gate." The young man with fiery hair, victorious but battered, shouted Yahoo as he stood amidst his comrades, their faces etched with relief and exhaustion. They had done it, they had succeeded. The young woman with dark hair and the other survivors stood together, their expressions a mixture of relief and sorrow. One of them stated, "We made it, back alive, huh?" The scene shifted to show a group of figures walking away from the gate, their forms silhouetted against the night sky. The aftermath of the battle left its mark on the 3 remaining warriors. The unnamed young woman with dark hair felt a mix of relief and sorrow, having witnessed the loss of comrades. Reze, victorious but reflective, contemplated the events that had transpired. Meanwhile, the unnamed young man stood exhausted but relieved to have survived. The unnamed man with glasses, somber and thoughtful, considered the possibility of a different outcome. Reze, burdened by guilt, reflected on his own shortcomings. He admitted to himself, "I'm still weak," acknowledging his inability to prevent the deaths of his party members. His thoughts turned to how he could have done more to protect them. He resolved to catch up to the others, his mind focused on making amends and preventing future tragedies. Meanwhile, the unnamed young woman with dark hair, holding a small, crystalline object, stood alone in a forest clearing, her expression serene yet tinged with sadness. Later, Reze encountered the young woman. She questioned him, "Cuckoo, Ri," her voice laced with concern. He responded with a hushed shoo, indicating a need for discretion. He explained that he was having trouble with something, prompting her to suggest they talk privately. The conversation turned to the losses they had suffered. "Somebody died, right?" she asked, her tone somber. Reze nodded, admitting that he still struggled to cope with the deaths of his comrades. The young woman shared his sentiment, stating, "No matter how often I experience it, I can never get used to it." They both acknowledged the emotional toll of the battle. The conversation shifted to a missing comrade, Kajura-san, whom neither had seen since the fateful day of the battle. Reze and the young woman stood amidst a wintry landscape. He informed her that this winter, the first attempt on the Origin Gate would be made, a selection test to be held in the fall to determine which parties would follow and support them. His words hung heavy in the air. The young woman, her expression a mixture of concern and determination, questioned his decision. Reze explained that to participate, her party needed to be A rank, urging her to hurry if she wished to try. He confessed that he had sneaked out to meet her, needing to return before being discovered. His guilt was palpable. The young woman, though initially surprised, expressed her happiness at hearing of his hard work. She wondered aloud why he had told her this. Reze, his voice laced with regret, explained that he wanted her to stay safe. He apologized for not meeting her sooner, admitting his fear of facing her. However, he declared that he would no longer run away, vowing to become strong enough to stand by her side. His resolve was evident in his determined gaze. A young woman with dark hair gazed pensively into a swirling vortex, a reflection of a young man visible within its depths. She murmured to herself, questioning if it was time for the next attempt. The woman's expression was one of quiet determination, tinged with a hint of apprehension. The unnamed young woman with dark hair awoke after a 2-day rest, feeling mostly recovered thanks to the care she received. She reflected on the unusual tiredness that followed magical healing, a common experience among adventurers. Her companions expressed similar sentiments, noting that even their lady had been exhausted after their recent expedition. The young woman, resolute but apprehensive, broached a serious topic with Reize, suggesting they discuss something important once things had calmed down. Reize agreed, though he expressed concern for the well-being of Tsukagase. Meanwhile, the unnamed young woman's brother and sister expressed relief at her recovery and thanked her for accompanying them back to their hometown. The young woman, though still weary, insisted she was fine, attributing her fatigue to the unavoidable strain of their recent work. Later, sitting with her brother and sister, the young woman's gaze drifted, her thoughts returning to the origin gate, a clear indication of her unwavering determination to overcome the challenges it presented. The young woman with dark hair, still recovering from her injuries, recounted the appearance of the Holy Sword, a top party previously unheard of, stating that conquering the origin gate had always been their dream. She expressed her unwavering resolve to continue her attempts at the origin gate, regardless of the danger, and her desire to have her companions by her side. Reize, concerned but agreeable, explained that only 2 of them would be able to participate in the origin gate expedition, and that it would be far more dangerous than anything they had faced before. He emphasized the life-threatening nature of delving into the dungeons, reminding them of the risks involved, but ultimately left the decision to the young woman. The young woman, resolute in her decision, declared her intent to proceed with the expedition, stating that it was a promise she had made. Her brother expressed his relief at her recovery and his support for her decision, acknowledging the potential historical significance of her participation. The group discussed their plan to become an A-rank party, a necessary step to participate in the Origin Gate expedition. This would require clearing a high-rank dungeon, a challenging feat for a party of only 3. They considered the optimal party composition, noting the need for a rearguard. The young woman with dark hair mentioned the upcoming Origin Gate expedition, and the others agreed that it was a coincidence that they were planning to go there as well. The young woman with blonde hair received a message and expressed surprise at the invitation to join a party called Vestige. She shared the news with her companions, and the young woman with dark hair agreed to meet them, providing her contact information. Observing his mother's peaceful sleep, a young woman noted her good health, while a man gently instructed others to continue caring for her. Later, the man spoke with a young woman, expressing his need to find another high-rank dungeon quickly. And she questioned his continued involvement in dangerous missions. He explained his reasons, emphasizing his concern for his younger sister's well-being, and urged her to avoid similar risks. The young woman with dark hair explained her father's dedication to his work and long hours, adding that he loves her mother deeply. She continued, mentioning her father's dangerous work as a dungeon diver, a source of both pride and worry. The young woman with blonde hair listened attentively, offering silent support to her friend's emotional confession. The dark-haired young woman, driven by a desire to save her mother, approached Kajura-san, a member of the Vestige group. She formally requested to join their ranks, hoping their assistance would allow her to find the elixir needed to save her mother. Kajura-san listened intently, understanding the weight of her request and the depth of her determination. A young woman, seemingly exasperated, examined a document. It was an A-rank license renewal form, the process clearly causing her significant annoyance. She muttered about the inconvenience of the association branch's distance and the added burden of helping her grandmother around the house, her frustration mounting with each passing moment. The weight of her responsibilities pressed heavily upon her. Chapter 12 begins with a report on the successful reduction of the monster-infested area near northern Kanto. The Holy Sword team has returned from duty, and a conversation ensues regarding the upcoming strike at the core of the Origin Gate. Yako-chan expresses concern about the expedition, while others discuss the potential closure of all other gates if the Origin Gate is cleared. The possibility is considered a gamble, with no guarantee of success, but a necessary risk to help people. Despite the uncertainty and the unexpected public display of fear from some, the group remains determined to proceed, confident that support will increase by fall. The unnamed protagonist and Yako-chan arrived at the Hakariku branch of the Adventurer Association. The protagonist, having never been there before, expressed some apprehension, while Yako-chan, concerned about the upcoming expedition to the Origin Gate, accompanied him inside. They approached the counter to begin the license renewal process.
The protagonist informed the official that he wished to take the A-rank exam, and was informed that, due to his recent achievements, he had already reached the recommended level. The official explained the requirements for skipping a rank. The protagonist learned that he needed 3 consecutive victories in the arena to skip a rank, and that he could only enter the training room once per day. He resolved to try. The A-rank exam commenced. Participants were instructed to get ready. The unnamed protagonist, slightly anxious but determined, stood opposite Kazari Kyuko. Kyuko, observing her opponent, reflected on the consistent failure of higher-level participants in past A-rank exams, noting that they often fell victim to traps. The protagonist, internally strategizing, resolved to avoid Kyuko's traps. The exam officially began. Kyuko initiated her attack, setting a trap. The protagonist, anticipating this, skillfully evaded it. Kyuko, surprised by the protagonist's agility, realized their plan was to avoid direct confrontation and force her into a trap. The protagonist, recognizing Kyuko's strength, continued to evade her attacks, aiming to exploit a weakness. Kazari Kyuko, her face contorted in furious defiance, shouted, "Don't you look down on me!" She launched a fierce attack. The unnamed protagonist, however, effortlessly dodged her assault, countering with a swift, precise maneuver that sent Kyuko sprawling. "That was close," she exclaimed, surprised by his agility. Even as Kyuko, a skilled fencer, attempted to recover, the protagonist's internal monologue revealed his strategy: if she can dodge the traps after stepping on it, then there's no sense in setting any more. Kyuko, realizing the futility of her traps, drew a pair of pistols. "Weapons," she declared, readying herself for a ranged attack. The protagonist, however, anticipated this, and with a determined expression, he countered her ranged attack. Kazari Kyuko launched a volley of projectiles, but the unnamed protagonist effortlessly dodged them all, his movements swift and precise. Kyuko, impressed by his agility, noted his keen observation skills and speed. She questioned how he could anticipate her traps so effectively. The protagonist, internally acknowledging the challenge of facing a skilled wizard, prepared to adapt his strategy. He recognized her reliance on arrow-based projectiles and flame magic, and resolved to counter her attacks with his own traps and swordsmanship. Kyuko attempted another attack, but the protagonist, anticipating her movements, evaded her strikes and countered with a series of precise sword thrusts. He pressed his advantage, forcing her into a defensive position amidst a deadly array of his own traps. Kazari Kyuko, her face contorted in a grimace of determination, muttered to herself, "But I need to make it through this to meet them again." She braced herself for the next confrontation, leaping forward with a desperate cry of "It's sink or swim," as she launched a final, desperate attack.